Hello to all, and welcome to Exemplar Ministries, where we are building excellent leaders' health to wealth. Today is November the 5th, 2023. You can find us on our website on exemplarministries.org, or you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Exemplar Ministries as well. And feel free to support us so we can keep this ball rolling on Cash App at money sign Exemplar Ministries, which is spelled EXEMPLARMINISTRIES. Today we will be talking about the creation of the world. The creation of the world. How many out there has thought about those things? So we hear a lot of the scientific side of the creation of the world with the Big Bang Theory and all these different theories that's out here. But the greatest theorist is actually God. So we're going to go and pull out our Bibles, those of us who have them, and those of us who use our Bible apps on our phones or tablets, laptop, whatever electronic you have, pull it out. This is the time to dive into God's beautiful word. Now we are coming from Genesis, the first chapter, the first through the 26th verse. And we're going to start at day 1, or also known as the first day, which is Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 through 5. I'm going to read that. And this is the King James Version. And it reads, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day." So, day 1, or the first day. On the first day, God created the heaven and the earth, and we see that in verse 1. However, God's focal point on this day was the earth, because in verse 2, it shows us that God did an assessment of what the earth was after he created it, in which it was formless, void, and dark, so that he saw what it needed, and God had to address it concerning the earth. God had to give the earth form, life, and light. He gave light by speaking it into existence and separating the light from darkness, in which God called in verse 5 the light day and the darkness night. This separation established the first evening and morning. Did you know that? That's something I just realized. So, day 2, which is also called the second day, which can be found in Genesis, the first chapter, the 6th through the 8th verse. I'm going to read that. And it says, "And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day." The second day. Day 2, the second day. On the second day, God's focal point is heaven, which is also known in verse 8 as firmament, and which he created. on day one. Remember, on day one, it says that God created what? Heaven and earth. Now, in verse 7, God gives us, the readers, a picture of how the firmament looks and where the firmament or heaven is. So let's take a look. Paint this picture in your head. We have a globe, which is the earth. Now, right above the earth is the sky, in which we consider it the sky today, but it's known in the Bible as firmament or heaven, which is where the clouds are, which is where the birds fly. That will be considered heaven. Okay? Now, above that, where the clouds may dwell, which would be where the water is above, then there's earth, and then there's water below, which would be the seas, the different bodies of water. Keeping that in mind. And then the writer Moses speaks about why the firmament or heaven was created in verse 7. Now, to reflect, verse 7 says, "And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so." So God used heaven to divide the waters, okay? The waters which were above and the waters which were below. And that concludes our day 2. Now we move on to day 3, also known as the third day, which is found in Genesis, the first chapter, the 9th through the 13th verse, and it reads, "And God said, Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day." The third day. Now, on the third day, in verses 9 through 10, God established what God focal point is the dry land, also known as the earth. And in verses 9 through 10, God established what we know of today as bodies of water. And that bodies of water is known as seas. And they were called forth, and therefore, or thereafter, God saw or looked at the gathering together of the waters, known as the seas, as good in verse 10. Now, God in verses 11 through 12 is establishing earth with life. He gave it life, and this is how he gave it life. When he created the grass, he created seed-bearing herbs, and he also created seed-bearing trees that bear its own fruit. So that concludes day 3. Moving on to day 4, or also known as the fourth day, found in Genesis, the first chapter, the 14th through the 19th verse, and it reads, "And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. The fourth day. Now, on the fourth day, the focal point is heaven or the firmament. God spoke into existence two great lights, one to rule the day and one to rule the night. Today we know them as the sun and moon. And God also made the stars. He also made the stars, you guys. So God created all these things just in 4 days. Moving right along. Here we see where our signs, seasons, days, and years in verse 14 come from. And this is just something to think about. Look at how mighty and good God is that we serve, that He would think of us during the day and the night. And that concludes day 4. Moving on to day 5, also known as the 5th day, coming from Genesis, the first chapter, the 20th through the 23rd verse. And it reads, and God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good, and God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. The 5th day. Now, on the 5th day, the focal point is the creatures in heaven and earth. God called forth in verse 21 great whales, and every living creature that moves in the water after its own kind. Also, every winged fowl or bird after his own kind. Now, here, God told the creatures to be what? Fruitful and multiply in the earth. Mm, mm, mm. Talk about connection, where even the creatures in the earth obey God. That's something to think about. Have you ever thought about how nature, how the creatures, how everything that God created must obey God? That concludes day 5. Moving right along to part 1 of day 6, because we're talking about what? We're talking about the creation of the world. So we don't want to dive into the creation of man. We'll talk about that later. So part 1 of day 6, also known as the 6th day, which is found in Genesis, the first chapter, the 24th through the 25th verse, and it reads, and God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle, and creeping thing, and beasts of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. God's been so good and busy that the focal point on the 6th day is the beasts of the earth, cattle, and creeping things after their own kind, y'all. Do you see how much work God did even before the creation of man? How God thought of man day and night to ensure that even his surroundings would complement what he was about to do with man or humanity. And we will talk more about that. And that concludes the creation of the world, found in Genesis, the first chapter, the first through the 25th verse. So, thank you once again. You are listening to Exemplar Ministries. Make sure you like and subscribe, and you'll find us on Facebook and YouTube on Sundays and Wednesdays. And make sure you check out our website at exemplarministries.org. And if you need to contact us for prayer or anything else, you can reach us at exemplarministries@gmail.com. Keeping in mind that we are building excellent leaders, health to wealth. Thank you and have an awesome day.